You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all the news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
And now we're going to talk about two of the lowest rated shows to ever air on Fox and Paramount.
Jeez, lowest rated.
Yeah, I think the Bellator show did. I don't even think they gave out the exact number, but I heard Dave say it was something like a few 100,000. And I know the UFC on Fox was like the fourth lowest rated show ever in the series history.
I'm not going to say Stanley Cup playoffs, but just saying.
Yeah, well, NBA playoffs are going on too, so there's a lot of competition in the sports world right now.
Actually, speaking of basketball, did you know that the Toronto Raptors are the Eastern Conference champions for the first time in their history?
Well, it's a good thing you sent me that banner.
Absolutely. So we got UFC and Bellator to discuss. We've got this week's UFC show in the same venue that held WrestleMania 4 and 5.
That's right. Barboza versus Lee coming up on the 21st.
But Stevie, we should start with the UFC show from this past weekend on Fox. And
you know, for being such a poorly rated show for UFC on Fox show, this was actually a very fun card to watch. I have no complaints.
No, I mean, you get that sometimes with a show that is low rated, has some great fights, and then the opposite is true as well, where a lot of people tune in and it's a fucking slumber fest.
Mm-hmm. No, this one, I'd say from at least the prelims on Fox onward, all enjoyable fights. I missed a few of the Fight Pass fights. I didn't see Yushin Okami getting the win, but I gather it was pretty one-sided from the scorecard.
Yeah, we can start there. I mean, looking at the prelims on Fight Pass, yes, Yushin Okami won 30-26 across the board against Diogo Lima. Lima, I hate to say this guy should be cut unless, you know, it's probable cause, but losing that badly on a low fight on the card, either he is on the verge of getting cut or in his next fight is going to be lose town, because that was not the performance you have to have to maintain a spot on that UFC roster.
But you know what? With his brother being the former Bellator champion a couple of times over, I think they'd welcome him with open arms. I think Diego could go to Bellator and he'd be fine.
Absolutely. Some other notables here: Luke Sanders beating Patrick Williams 30-27, 30-27, 29-28.
And cutting a promo afterward because it was the last fight on his contract.
Not a dominant win, but, I mean...
He said, quote, "I hope to be paid with the respect that I deserve after that win."
I'd pay the guy.
I would too.
We saw an omoplata with the...
You saw an omoplata. I missed this fight.
Well, this is on Fight Pass. If you have the channel there, you can definitely check this out after, or listen to this show.
He did get a Performance of the Night bonus for it. Adam Wizarek.
Thank you. Against Arjun Buller.
Mm-hmm.
Omoplatas are very fun to watch. You know me, I like the crazy finishes and the spectacular ones that you don't see every day. So, like a Darce choke or, you know, some of those,
yeah, I mean, anybody can get a rear naked choke or a standing guillotine, but when you see a triangle choke or an omoplata, it's a little more exciting.
Or a flu choke.
Yeah, there was almost a Von Flu choke last week. It was so close to being done in a fight, and it didn't happen.
Lauren Muller beat Shanna Dobson 29-28 across the board.
That was the point where I tuned into the prelims.
And the main
I thought
event...
Muller looked pretty good in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will... It will keep her where she is. I don't think it was a ranking improver. If it does, it's maybe one spot, maybe. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it will basically guarantee her a higher level fight in her next performance.
That's very true. Speaking of which, Gilbert Burns knocking out Dan Moret, that probably guarantees him a nice little push in the lightweight division.
It's like he owed him money or something.
Right.
59 seconds of the second round.
Yep, and that's 2 wins in a row now for him, so Gilbert Burns is back on the right track.
Now we're moving on to the prelims on Fox and Tavares and Joko.
Oh, I have to talk about this. My God. I mean, first 2 rounds back and forth, pretty good fight. But then in the third round, when Brad Tavares caught Joko, he caught him right behind the ear, and he was just done.
They should show this tape where not to get hit.
Yeah, textbook. That was like he hit the button and Joko was out.
John Moraga against Wilson Reese.
Hayes.
Hey, I always do that with him. Unanimous decision. Moraga is getting up there as far as profile-wise. I think he's earned a spot on the main card in his next show.
I think so, too. I mean, he is a former contender to the flyweight title, so I think that is bearing in consideration for where you should put him on a main card.
Well, it's a Fox show, so there's exposure there, so...
Now,
what
I
about...
felt bad for... It's not Hickey Haney, by the way. This is Ricky Rainey. That's the sniper of Bellator fame, but he's the one who got sniped in this fight with Muslim Salikov. Ooh.
4-12 of the second round.
Yeah, and that was a pretty nice clean shot that Salikov caught him with. Again, like you said, if you want the textbook on where to put the punch and how to put it, this would be a good one to watch.
So here, I'm done for using it for this fight. You can use it for the next one.
And then Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface, getting the nice rear naked choke submission over longtime UFC veteran Tim the Barbarian Bosch. A very quality win for Shoeface.
I'll admit, I had this fight wrong. I thought Boach would have had this. Shoeface, we talked about this, it seems like on every week or every second week, where seeing a submission in the first round is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, 4:28 of the first round, rear naked, I don't think he would have held on for 30 seconds.
No. And it's like I always say, in that first round is the best time to go for it because you're not slippery, you're not covered in blood, you're not sweaty. If you're going to get a submission, you want to get a good squeeze on it and not have somebody slip out. Go for it in the first, and that's what he did.
I mean, if it's done right, that's the time to do it. I find it tricky because as a fighter, you should be aware that they're going to try to end this fight early, right? It's got to be in the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can be aware of it, but somebody can just be, no pun intended, slicker than you when it comes to the jiu-jitsu game. Some guys, they just, even knowing that it's coming, they can't defend every angle. And I think there's a good example of that when we get to the Bellator card.
Well, I don't mean to generalize Brazilians in general, but a Brazilian want to fight with jiu-jitsu on the ground? No, don't say that.
Yeah, but these days, there are plenty of American practitioners of Brazilian jiu-jitsu who are just that good.
Oh, there's some Brazilian knockout artists too. This flip of the coin as well.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Watterson against Courtney Casey. Split decision here, 29-28 times 2 and 28-29.
Now, to
Did the
be
right
honest,
fighter...
I thought Casey got robbed.
What?
I had her winning 2 out of 3 rounds.
I think it was the first or was it the second? It was an early round where you could have gone either way, but
See,
I
my opinion, Casey, even when she was on her back, was the more active fighter because she kept putting Watterson into danger of being submitted or tapping out. So even though Watterson was on top, she was not the dominant fighter. In fact, at the end, and I believe it was the second round, maybe it was the first, but at the end of one of those rounds, she had a wicked nasty armbar on Watterson to the point where if she had put it on her 1 second earlier or the round had been 1 second longer, there is no way that Watterson would have survived that. She would have tapped. That armbar was straight and extended and nasty.
It was nasty. But, I mean, what do we always say, Stevie?
Never leave it to the judges.
There you go. What about the next fight here as well?
Now I'm actually stealing your gimmick. Adesanya. I gotta get used to saying his name, because he's gonna be around in the middleweight division for a while. Now, some people seem to think Marvin Vettori actually won this fight, but I gave it 2 rounds to 1 for Adesanya, so the only round I could see Vettori winning clear cut was the third, because he finally got tired of playing the stand-up game without Adesanya, realized he wasn't winning, and so he took him down and pretty much held him down for all of round 3. So even though it wasn't exciting, I would give Vettori the third round, but I think the right guy won here.
Okay. Alex Oliveira beating Carlos Condit with the guillotine in the second round at 317.
Tale of 2 rounds. I say Condit was winning the first, and actually I think he was winning it quite handily. But then, in the second round, I think he just all of a sudden ran out of gas, and that's not something you ever used to say about the natural-born killer. But he got clipped in the second round and lost his footing and started to stumble, and Alex Oliveira was just like a cat with a mouse. He just went pounce!
He's getting older. His gas tank isn't what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people even said could be passing of the guard here.
Yeah. And I think there was one moment in particular where it was Alex Oliveira, I think, throwing an up kick. And it didn't look like much at first, but then as Alex Oliveira got back to his feet, Condit just started to not look right. Like maybe that up kick did actually connect. You couldn't tell, in real time, and I'm not sure if they showed it on the replay or not, but it was like from that moment on, the fight changed and Condit was just out of it.
Well, we'll move on to the main event, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje.
Oh, man.
This went into the deep waters in the fourth round, 33 seconds, when Poirier won with a hell of a knockout.
Yeah, but hell of a fight in general. I mean,
yeah.
I know we're only in April, and there's a lot of time left to go in the year, but I think this one will be on some of the best of 2018 lists. I don't know if it's number 1 because there's just too much MMA left to go for the rest of the year, but I'd put it up there because this was one hell of a battle. And I'd say the early going, you could toss it either way depending on what you're looking at. Because if you're looking at the leg kicks, Gaethje was just lighting Dustin Poirier up. And if you don't believe those things hurt like a mother, just look at the post-fight photos of how swollen up Poirier's leg is. It looks like a sausage that got left in the microwave too long. It's just, I'm serious, it's just puffy and bruised and like almost coming apart at the seams. Gaethje was just drilling him with these incredibly hard leg kicks. And you were wondering how Dustin Poirier could weather the storm, because we've seen Gaethje put people down with these kicks before, but he kept firing off shots, and then Gaethje would fire counter shots, and they'd just go back and forth, and they'd have these wild exchanges. And in the third round, I felt like Gaethje was finally getting the better of both wars. I thought he was winning with the leg kicks and with the stand-up. I thought he really had Poirier in a lot of trouble in the third round, and in the fourth, I just thought it was going to be over. I thought, okay, Gaethje finally got him into the deep waters. He wore him down. He's made a mess of his leg. He's rocking him with the shots. But then, like you said, Poirier just out of nowhere just landed a sweet shot, and suddenly Gaethje starts losing his equilibrium, and he's trying to back up, and he's trying to catch his balance, and the referee is keeping an eye on him because he could tell. I mean, this is like the stereotypical guy at the bar who's had one too many to drink, where he tries to stand up and he can't, and then he grabs the bar stool to try to hold himself up and he can't, and then he grabs onto the coat of somebody standing next to him and it doesn't work either. He just keeps falling one way and the other. That's what Gaethje looked like. He was the drunk who couldn't stand up, and then Poirier just started pouring it on, and the referee steps in, and I'm like, that's absolutely the right call. I know Gaethje's probably pissed that the fight was stopped, but he was not in any way, shape, or form intelligently defending himself at that point. He wasn't out cold, but for all practical purposes, he was out on his feet. So Poirier just drilled him with a perfect shot and knocked him for a loop.
I mean, you spoke about the sausage in the microwave. That picture post-fight, it might have been the day after. The bruising, just alone, the bruising I've never seen bruises that many shades at the same time.
Yeah, you've never seen such a Pyrrhic victory as this one, because Poirier won, but he's going to be on the shelf for a long time after that win. So he won.
It could be worse.
He won a war. That was a big time war.
It could be worse. He could have been taken out of the cage on a stretcher, but he won the fight.
That's true. He did leave of his own power, but man, he's probably walking funny for a long time now.
Yeah. Now, as far as the picks go on MMA draws, I summed up my picks this way. For me, it was an okay show for my picks. I went 3-2.
So did I.
But 2 of my 3 were ones by split decision.
Yeah, and Paul Fontaine made the same picks as I did, so he went 3-2 as well.
But I mean, if 2 of my 3 wins came by the skin on my teeth, I gotta do better next time, boss.
Yeah, well, you live and you lose. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't.
Absolutely. Now, as far as another show that happened this past week at Bellator in St. Charles, Missouri.
Yes, that's right. And we have 8 fights that I can talk about because there were 4 that took place either way before or way after the show. I'm not sure which, but they did not air, so I didn't see them. But
all right, let's talk. Unless there's something on the prelims that really caught your eye.
Yeah, actually, I would go with Juliana Velasquez and Rebecca Ruth because Ruth, as you know, tough as nails fighter. She's a mom, but she also trains full-time when she's not doing her day job, and she puts her heart and soul into this. And basically, as a human interest story, Rebecca Ruth is just awesome, and she always brings it in every fight. But in this one, the fight was taken out of her in the 3rd round when Juliana Velasquez just landed an absolutely nasty kick right to the solar plexus. I don't know if it hurt her liver or her kidneys or just took the will to live out of her, but it was one of those shots where it was like a knockout shot, but it wasn't to the head. You know what I'm saying? It was like it just landed, and she was going to start throwing follow-up shots, and Rebecca Ruth just like folded in half like a sheet of paper. She just went, and that was it. There was no reason to continue.
No, it was done.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Now, as far as the main card, I mean, do you want to start at the bottom or start at the top on this one?
Yeah, start at the bottom, and then we'll get here. Like
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
It's like volleyball.
We're not in the 6th, but I got a reference Drake, so there you go. Kevin Ferguson Jr. bringing the pain in honor of his late father, Kimbo Slice. Baby Slice getting the rear naked choke 94 seconds into this fight. And you know what? This is the evolved Slice. This is version 2.0 because he's got wrestling, he's got a ground game, he's got submissions. He's not just a stand and bang fighter, and that's no disrespect to his late father because, man, Kimbo was one of the best at just straight up brawls, especially his, shall we say, unsanctioned fights.
But Stevie, his dad never had muscles like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say is Baby Slice is going to bring the full MMA game because he has time to learn it from his youth, whereas Kimbo had been a street brawler for years before he tried to get into MMA, so he had catching up to do. Whereas
no, I was impressed. Like from a physical standpoint, like if a casual fan watched this fight and saw Baby Slice there, and they're gonna be like, "Wait, these two? That's his dad. That's his son." No, it looks like an entirely different person. Mm-hmm. This guy is jacked up. This guy has muscles. This guy has a gas tank. This guy is a fighter. Mm-hmm. No offense to the original Slice there, but
right, that's what we're saying. It's like this is
night and day.
This is what happens when you start at MMA at a young age instead of at a later age.
Absolutely.
You get to be a well-rounded fighter, and that's what Baby Slice is turning into, is a well-rounded, talented fighter.
Now, do you think this was a tomato can fight, or was this a fight where he really showed his skill?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I wouldn't go all the way to calling Devon Brock a scrub, but he was 1-0, so he wasn't super established. he did get an upset win over Conry Gracie because they were probably thinking that, the Gracie name alone, Conry would probably be a great fighter. So I think they were a little surprised when Devon Brock got the win over him at Bellator 192. But at the same time, it's not like Baby Slice was fighting somebody who was super deep in the MMA game.
No. I guess the next question would be, do you give him a named fighter next?
Well, you're getting to the point where you might start to consider it because he's had 4 pro fights now and he's 3-1. So the competition level definitely needs to keep stepping up here. It's like when I talk to AJ McKee, he always says the same thing, and this does tie in because they're both members of the Body Shop. He always says to me, I want to fight fighters that are better than me, because how else am I going to prove how good I am?
Well, I mean, I just don't know who you put in front of him next. Is there a person right now you would say that'd be a good fight, or at least an interesting fight to gauge his talent?
Well, if they can do a lightweight fight, you might give him, I don't know. Let me think of all of the lightweights in Bellator. Maybe a Sadawad. That might be too much experience for him.
That's a tough task, yeah.
Yeah. Let me think about this a little more. Maybe, No. Not Aaron Pico, because they're teammates. You can't do that. Maybe a Ryan Couture? Maybe.
Ooh, that'd be that's a good fight.
I'd say him or Ryan Quinn. Those would be my 2 picks.
I think Couture would be a good fight. That would definitely catch the casual fan's interest, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the main card continuing on the main card, I should say, Logan Storley and Joaquin Buckley.
Not really a surprise here, because Logan is a very decorated wrestler and trained with Brock Lesnar and comes from the same hometown Lesnar does. Even went to the same university that Brock did. So, long story short, Logan Storley's pedigree when it comes to amateur wrestling is as solid as you can get. And he proved it because Joaquin Buckley, a wrestler in his own right, but then there are different levels of wrestlers. There's like wrestler at a junior college level, and then there's like wrestler at Oklahoma or Penn State or Minnesota or Iowa State. You know what I'm saying? There's different levels to this shit. It's like going to, if you're going to play college football, you could go to Boise State, or you could go to the University of Miami, or you could go to USC. You'd go to somewhere really known for football, like one of those schools. You wouldn't go to like piddly Washaponee Kana State. You wouldn't go there to be a star.
Well, I first impression I got when I saw him, he's got upper body strength. He looks like a good old country boy type of thing.
Yeah, he's a chip off the old farm boy block, and that's pretty much what he said to me in the interview, is that's how he got strong, because, when you're on the farm in Webster, South Dakota, what else are you gonna do? You're gonna do chores and you're gonna wrestle. That's all you can do. That's how you get strong.
Did he wrestle any bears?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. AJ McKee and Justin Lawrence.
Well, AJ did say that Justin was going to be his toughest test to date. I think he proved that was correct because Justin gave him a good fight. I'd say AJ won every round, but Justin didn't look like he was blown out of the water. In fact, the only thing that was blown out in this fight was his mullet, because it kept swaying back and forth every time he moved.
It's too bad he didn't get a finish here.
Yeah, well, AJ wanted one, but Justin is just a crafty, experienced veteran. He's had like 15 fights now. He's not an easy guy to finish, and AJ was just proud that he went the distance with him and showed he could beat a featherweight of Justin's caliber.
See, I think the problem there is Lawrence waited for McKee to make a mistake.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. No.
Michael Chandler and Brandon Gertz. This one, oh boy.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about when I said that some guys are slicker than most when it comes to their submission game. Because Brandon Gertz is as much of a veteran as Michael Chandler. In terms of total number of fights, let alone total number of fights in Bellator, they aren't that far apart. I mean, Michael Chandler is like almost the all-time leader, but Brandon Gertz has been around for quite a while himself. So it's not like he wouldn't know that somebody's going for a submission. But at the same time, the way Chandler set up this arm triangle choke was just a thing of beauty to watch, because even though Gertz had to know it was coming, he couldn't stop what was coming toward him. He couldn't stop the takedown. He couldn't stop the transition. He couldn't stop the arm going around his neck. Chandler just imposed his will. I really can't think of a better way to put it than that. It's like, you know it's coming, you know what you should do to defend it, and you still can't do it, because some guys are just that good.
It reminded me of the early times of the guillotine choke. You knew it was coming, and you still got beat by it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. A tough winner.
Mm-hmm.
And
the McKenzie team.
McKenzie, yeah, and you knew it was coming, and it was very impressive. But after a while, fighters found a way to stop it. I don't think Gertz could have stopped this one, though.
No, I think Michael Chandler proved his point.
Now, as far as overall impressions on this one, did they plant the seed well enough for the next show? I mean, how was the promotion level for this fight for the next big show?
If you're asking me to be completely honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this was a flyover show.
Really?
I think they didn't intend it to be such. I think when they had it as a title fight between Chandler and Primus, they were thinking big things. But when that fight fell apart, I think they put all of their energy and focus into Fedor versus Mir and kind of let this one go to the wayside.
It's a shame. Maybe they're thinking we don't have to promote it that much because the people who are watching the show are already going to be watching it.
Yeah, well, maybe considering if the ratings are anything like Dave said, maybe they should have put a little more into it.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about UFC now. This weekend in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It's a big show. It's a show that, they're running on a post as far as Bellator competition is concerned, so they have a chance to get some, I would say, casual eyeballs if you're not watching hockey or basketball playoffs or baseball.
Absolutely, and a pretty stacked up card for Fox Sports for this Barboza versus Lee show, which of course tells you the main event is Edson Barboza and Kevin Lee, but underneath you got what I consider a pretty damn solid lineup. Frankie Edgar versus Cub Swanson at featherweight, Justin Willis and Chase Sherman at heavyweight. That might be the only fight where I'd be like, but it's still an okay fight, and the rest are really damn good. David Branch and Thiago Santos at middleweight, Aljamain Sterling and Brett Johns at bantamweight, Jim Miller and Dan Hooker at lightweight. That is a sweet main card.
So you're telling me Frankie Edgar is healthy 100% fighting in 2018?
Why wouldn't I be?
I saw that, and I was like, he's been around a while now. Like, this is going to be, his 30th fight?
Let's see, 22-6-1. Yeah, 30th fight.
Man, some fighters don't even make 20.
Yeah, he's 36, but he's still going strong in his career. I mean, other than getting knocked out by Brian Ortega, it's not like we had ever really seen him destroyed in a long time. Even when he lost to Jose Aldo, he went all the way to a decision.
All right, well, we'll start at the top there, Barboza and Lee.
Speaking of leg kicks, do not stand in front of Edson Barboza and take leg kicks, or your leg will look like Dustin Poirier's.
Or worse.
Can you imagine if we ever get an Edson Barboza-Justin Gaethje fight, how their legs will look at the end of it?
Can I wear protective padding on my legs for that fight? No? Okay.
I think the crowd should, because I'll be feeling it.
This one, I feel Barboza's gonna win, but when it comes to Kevin Lee, he's been surprising lately. So,
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a guy that you should just brush aside and say, oh, Barboza's going to kick him to death. Okay, he lost to Tony Ferguson, but so have a lot of people. Before that, he was on a hell of a run. He beat Efren Escudero, Jake Matthews, Magomed Mustafayev, Francisco Trinaldo, who is a jacked-up lightweight, and Michael Chiesa, he put to sleep. He choked him out before Chiesa could even tap out.
well, the last thing that beat Ferguson was a knee ligament. So
Yeah, no doubt about that.
it's gonna be a while for him to come back, and I don't think it's any shame on losing to Ferguson because at that time Ferguson was on such a hot streak.
Mm-hmm.
But Barboza,
yeah, you might be surprised, but I gotta tell you this. Lee is the odds favorite as of today. The line could change by the time this show takes place, but right now Lee is the minus 145 favorite.
It's a fight I would not want to parlay.
Not unless you're Paul Fontaine. I heard he had a free sweet parlay going. I don't remember if it cashed out or not, but I think
moving on.
He came close.
He came close. Frankie Edgar and Cub Swanson.
Yeah, you got Frankie Edgar as the minus 230 favorite, which I agree with, and I put an asterisk next to that. Because I have seen Cub Swanson in so many wars with so many people, and I know his striking accuracy is among the best in the featherweight division. But among the best and better than Frankie Edgar are two different things. He's not better than Frankie. He's damn good.
Yes.
And that's why I say there's like a 1 out of 10 chance. Maybe better than that. Maybe like a 1 out of 6 chance or a 1 out of 7. So you never say never, but the majority of times this fight takes place, I would pick Frankie Edgar.
Absolutely. We mentioned earlier that, this is going to be Edgar's 30th fight. Well, this is going to be Swanson's 34th.
Yeah, these are some, I don't want to say grizzled veterans, but definitely experienced.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got Swanson in an upset here. I just think Edgar, I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to go to the judges. I think it's a 2-round-to-1 fight.
I guess we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Who's the favorite?
I said that's basically Frankie Edgar minus 230.
Yeah, that one I'd parlay for sure. Chase Sherman and Justin Willis. Willis is a beast.
Yeah, he is.
He is your prototypical heavyweight beast.
Yeah.
He's your Keith Lee.
That's why he's minus 360, and I totally agree with that.
And Sherman is no scrub, but god damn.
I'm not saying Sherman is a scrub. He's 11-4. Only fight he really looked bad in of late was his last fight where he got knocked out in the first round by Shamil Abdurrahimov. So I don't think that's any shame on Sherman. I just think that Willis is what you said. He's a beast.
Now the problem here is, I mean, yes, this is a heavyweight fight, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but we worry ourselves with fighters making the weight, cutting down to a certain weight.
Willis,
Can you imagine what he...
Yeah, Willis probably cuts weight to get to the limit. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I wonder what his walk-around weight is.
I always heard with Brock Lesnar it was like 290 or 300.
Yeah, I believe it. Do we have any update on Brock Lesnar now that you bring him up?
Last I heard, he has not entered the USADA testing pool.
Now, the question I have, does a fighter, does that have to be public knowledge of who's in the pool?
In his case, it absolutely does, because he was suspended for a failure for a prohibited substance, so he has to be tested for longer than a normal fighter to prove that he's not on anything. So he has to make a public declaration that he is going back in the testing pool so they can start testing him at random immediately whenever they feel like for a period of no less than 6 months. He has to make a very public declaration of this.
Okay. Let's move on to David Branch and Thiago Moreta Santos.
Minus 220 for Santos, plus 180 for Mr. Branch.
Well, I've always been a fan of Branch, but I think Santos wins this one.
I really hate saying this because, like you, I am a big fan of him, but I sort of feel like in that Luke Rockhold fight, we kind of saw that in World Series of Fighting, he was fighting... Oh, how do I put this the correct way?
Big fish, small pond.
Yeah, exactly. Big fish, small pond. Thank you. And now that he's fighting the guys like Luke Rockhold, it's flipped around the other way. Now suddenly he's no longer the big fish. He's in there with the other big fishes. It doesn't make him a bad fighter. It just means now he's swimming with the sharks. And sometimes you're the predator, sometimes you're the prey.
Mm-hmm. Brett Johns and Aljamain Sterling. Ooh, I mean, Sterling is a great fighter. Johns undefeated at 15-0.
Yeah, this is your coin flip of the card.
Mm-hmm.
They're both on the minus. Minus 115 for Sterling, minus 105 for Johns. 5 times it's going one way, 5 times it's going the other. What do you think?
I hope this doesn't go to the judges. I don't want to have a draw. I want Sterling to win this fight by stoppage.
I'm kind of leaning that way because I feel if I have to put one thing down on both of them here, it's that Aljamain Sterling, even though he's not undefeated, he's fought a little higher level of competition. I mean, I don't see that many big names on Brett Johns' record other than Joe Soto and Albert Morales. So you look at Aljamain Sterling's record by comparison, he's, even when he loses, he's still fighting the who's who of the competition. The guys like Marlon Moraes and Rafael Assunção and Brian Caraway. So even his losses are better than Johns' wins. So on that basis alone, and I'm not saying Johns isn't good, I'm going with Sterling.
And we have to talk about, you mentioned it, Dan Hooker and Jim Miller.
Now, this one, I actually will use the words grizzled veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Miller absolutely is that and deserves that respect for being there forever and ever. This is his 41st fight.
That's insane.
Yeah, well, it's also insane that he's on a 3-fight losing streak, so I think they wouldn't cut Jim Miller just because they have too much respect for the man, but he might want to start considering retirement with another loss. And Dan Hooker is certainly a guy capable of taking advantage of the moment. He's 15-7, 2-fight win streak. He knocked out Ross Pearson with a knee, choked out Mark Duquessis with a guillotine. So he's well-rounded in all respects. 7 knockouts and 7 submissions in his 15 wins. He could catch Jim Miller either way. But because Jim Miller is a grizzled veteran, I'm going to predict this goes to the distance.
No.
I'm going to say Hooker wins, but I'm going to say it's a decision.
Okay. Is there anything on the prelims that catches your eye, or should we move on to the news?
Let's go ahead and get to the news, because we're running short on time.
All right. So, I mean, obviously Yushin Okami's big win there, that will definitely push him up the rankings, so to speak, but Yushin Okami isn't exactly a young fighter. I mean,
no, he's not a spring chicken either. He's also a quote-unquote grizzled veteran.
Who would you put in front of him next? Is he a gatekeeper at this point?
No, I don't think you could call him a gatekeeper with a definitive win of that dominant of a one-sided score. I can't look at him that way. I would think if he's not fighting a top 15 fighter, then you got to give him somebody on the bubble, like 16 to 20, somewhere in that range.
Oh, makes sense. Now, let's just say words were spoken, but there was a confrontation between Brad Tavares and Bisping backstage.
Yeah, well, Tavares called out Bisping, so are you really surprised by that?
No.
And
No.
Paul Fontaine and I kind of had a little back and forth about that on Twitter. He's like, well, he's never getting that fight. And I said, Paul, you can't get what you don't ask for. He's like, true.
That's true. Adesanya, I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
he
As I
made
take
a
a swallow of my Scooter's coffee, but go ahead.
He said something that I don't know how, in what context. I'm trying to get the right gist of it, but he said even Jesus Christ got crucified. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's a little much in the using that, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it was a promo to garner attention or more just a flippant remark.
I don't know. Some of the promos I heard after fights this past weekend, I didn't hear because almost every word coming out of their mouth was bleeped out.
Pretty much. Do you think Poirier deserves a shot at Khabib?
No, I reluctantly say no, but I'm looking at the lineup of guys that are basically who deserves it and who doesn't. And I'm looking at the guys ahead of Poirier. Like Barboza, if he wins this weekend, he would deserve it more. Eddie Alvarez, a former champion, he would deserve it more. Tony Ferguson, when he comes back from his torn ligament, he would definitely deserve it. And
yeah, that'd be a while.
Yeah, I know that'd be a while, and here's the one I absolutely hate to say, but you know it's true, and you know it's what they want.
Don't say it.
Conor would deserve it.
Oh.
Dude, I don't want that either. I'm appalled, disgusted, sickened, and disheartened by the fact that UFC is basically going to give him a pass for what he did at UFC 223. But let's be realistic about it. He is the former champion. He's the biggest money-drawing fighter that they have. They've got a huge debt load they have to pay off. And people are going to turn out to see that fight because they know that Conor is crazy and the heat between him and Khabib is real.
With the loss, Justin Gaethje now has 5 fights left on his deal.
Actually, he said he has 5 fights left in his career.
Oh, career? I thought it was contract.
No, in his post-fight interview, he said,
I misheard it then.
I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not going to get this exactly right, but he said, with my fighting style, I have 5 fights left. He's basically admitting the way he fights, his method of fighting, his give a punch to take a punch style, he can only get knocked in the head so many times before he's going to have to call it quits.
I thought maybe he was just saying he needs to get another fighting style.
I don't think Justin Gaethje can get another fighting style. I've been following this guy all the way back to the World Series of Fighting, and I interviewed him several times, and I would always ask him that question. I'd be like, Justin, can you keep fighting like this? He's like, hell yeah, man, I'm going to go out there and put on a war, and I'm going to whip some ass. Like, yeah, you say that now, but I wonder how you're going to feel after you've taken a whole bunch of concussions in a few years. And now, I think that those chickens are coming home to roost. Sorry to borrow that phrase, but I think he's finally realized this is not conducive to his long-term health.
Now let's move on to UFC Fight Night 132. They've added Tyson Pedro against OSP.
Oh, well, that's a quality fight.
Apparently Luke Sanders is now a free agent.
Yeah, that's why I said he wants to get paid more. That's exactly what I was referring to. It was the last fight on his deal.
What I'm going to ask you, though, is do you think if UFC and Bellator are competing for his services, so to speak, who do you think ponies up more money?
I'm going to surprise you, but I'm going to say Bellator.
That's not a surprise.
Oh, okay then.
No, I would say Bellator. I'm not saying a Brinks truck, mind you, but I think Bellator might offer him not significantly more, maybe like 20% more than UFC would.
Yeah, I could see them like putting an extra 5 or maybe an extra 10 on a deal that UFC just wouldn't match, and they'd go, okay, you can have him.
Alejandro Perez
Mm-hmm.
wants to fight someone in the top 10.
Okay.
What about Eddie Wineland?
I suppose.
It's a fight. It's a fight.
But Wineland's number 15, so that's not top 10.
Well, I think if you want someone in the top 10, number 15 comes knocking and you dominate him, you would definitely improve your ranking. Wineland's the guy that has experience behind his name at this point.
Wait, once again, you talk about your grizzled veteran?
Yeah.
That's Eddie Wineland. That dude's been around a long fucking time.
I don't think he's rookie of the year last year or anything like that, so.
Oh, this is totally off topic, but
Uh-oh.
I was reading a list the other day of nominees for Rookie of the Year in a music category, and it was like Remy Ma, Rookie of the Year 2016. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, I remember her doing songs 10 plus years ago. She's not a rookie. She was called Remy Martin back then, but it's the same fucking woman. She's not Rookie of the Year.
It's like when a Japanese baseball player comes over to North America and he's considered a rookie of the year, but he played professional ball for 10 years.
Yeah, no, Ohtani is definitely the real deal. He's a pitcher and a hitter.
Yeah. Leonardo Santos against Nick Lentz has been added to the UFC show in UFC Fight Night 131.
Okay, I can look forward to that.
It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I'm forgetting here.
Hey,
I'm trying to figure this out.
I'll throw one out there that you haven't mentioned yet as far as the news goes.
Yeah.
We have a addition to an upcoming Bellator card. I'm going to be the one to throw it out to you here because Carrington Banks and Adam Piccolotti are having a lightweight fight at Bellator 199 in San Jose.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good fight because 9-2 Piccolotti and Carrington Banks, the jet setter, undefeated at 7-0.
Main card fight?
Yeah, it's main card.
Okay, good. Alexander Gustafsson's waiting for his next UFC offer, but he says while he waits, he wants to he would box John Jones.
In fact, I'll go you one further.
Mm-hmm.
He said beating John Jones is more important than winning the title.
Damn.
He just wants to beat Jones that bad. And you know what? In their first fight, it was so close, you could argue that he did.
Yeah. It was a very close fight in Toronto.
Yes, it was. Might be the best fight John Jones ever had. At least in terms of somebody being on his level for the entire fight.
So, UFC 225 had another fight added. Like it needs another fight, like a hole in the head.
Right.
Bobby Green and Clay Guida.
Yeah. Well, that's a good show because Clay's from the Midwest, locally popular, so that'll do well.
2 title fights, Blades Overeem, CM Punk, Andrei Arlovsky, Carlos Esparza, Rashad Evans, Joseph Benavidez.
Yes, I know. Let's save the rundown of that because it's getting late.
Holy crap, that's a long show.
Yeah, I know. And this is a long show.
We're probably gonna have more on this next week because it's still developing right now. But apparently there's a joint bid going in between for UFC TV rights.
The whole ESPN thing? Yeah.
ESPN and Fox, yeah.
I'm not buying that rumor. I don't believe that.
That's why I said we might have more next week.
Yeah, let's table that one for now. I see all the speculation on Twitter. I have not seen anything I consider legit.
All right, we got Yancy Medeiros and Mike Perry at July UFC 226. And that looks like all the news I have here. Just double checking. Yeah, I think that's everything for this week. We'll have more next week about that UFC deal.
And one final note.
Or bid, I should say.
Even though he's hurting like a mofo right now, Dustin Poirier in total cashed $170,000 in bonuses. I think he can ice his leg with some cold hard cash.
Yeah, or, a few ice packs or something.
Yeah. Get you a nice whirlpool, one of those ice whirlpools. What are they called? You know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. So what's on tap for Thursday night AMP, Stevie?
I don't even know. This is the lull period right now between WrestleMania and the Greatest Rumble ever and the Backlash show in May, so we'll talk about something.
Well, the shakeup happened. You gonna shake up the roster on AMP?
No. We're not making any lineup changes to the show.
All right. Well, for Stevie J, I'm Peter H., the Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening, and as I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya.